Personally, here's where I think they didn't do a very good job, and that was with Kelsey Mitchell, who's an unrestricted free agent, because Kelsey Mitchell had a hell of a season.
Do you remember when Sheryl Swoopes made that comment? Well, Kelsey Mitchell finally had enough. After months of staying quiet, offering polite responses, and enduring endless media chatter, the Indiana Fever veteran unleashed her frustration, delivering a truth bomb that set the entire WNBA conversation about Caitlin Clark on fire. It was clear that Kelsey Mitchell had decided it was time to end the nonsense and demand the respect she and her team deserve.
Playoffs the last two. What's been the big turnaround? How have you viewed the way the team has grown organically?
This wasn't a casual remark or a fluffy endorsement. No, Mitchell's words carried weight because of who she is and what she represents. When she speaks, it's not just another soundbite. It's survival talking. She's lived through the worst years of Indiana basketball. She's carried lineups so thin they felt like G League experiments. She's endured coaching carousels, blowouts, and years of irrelevance. And through all that pain, she kept showing up, kept putting points on the board, and kept dragging this franchise forward. Kelsey Mitchell isn't just a player, she's one of Indiana's backbones. Do you stand with Kelsey? Let us know in the comments below.
Moments, you've been, as you mentioned, your career with the Fever. First six, though, were tough, obviously. They weren't as easy. You guys have made the...
That's why this interview hits so hard. Because when you ask Kelsey Mitchell about Caitlin Clark, you don't get a rehearsed cookie-cutter answer. You don't get some hollow "she's a great teammate" line. You get reality, raw and direct. And in this case, it was a reality check. Mitchell didn't just praise Caitlin Clark. She validated what so many fans already know, but what bitter voices refuse to admit. Caitlin Clark has changed the entire basketball ecosystem, period. She's not just a star. She's not just another scorer. She's a cultural shift wrapped in a jersey. And coming from Kelsey Mitchell, the one player who could have easily resented all the hype, that's monumental.
It's this moment to as a moment to not grow. And so hopefully the mental preparation that I've been through and the things I've been through can kind of help me get through.
Mitchell looked into the camera and essentially said, without Caitlin, none of this happens. The sold-out arenas, the primetime coverage, the global spotlight. That's Clark. And instead of fighting it, Mitchell embraced it. No jealousy, no snide digs, just respect. And here's the part that stings for people like Swoopes. It wasn't empty praise. It was respect built on balance. Because while Mitchell credited Caitlin with transforming the league, she also reminded everyone, subtly but firmly, that before Clark arrived, she was the one keeping the Fever alive.
Because she's accepted it with so much grace and even welcomed us with open arms to, make this thing happen. So I think it just took a lot of big...
Think about it. This is the same Kelsey Mitchell who carried Indiana through 5-win seasons, the one who kept showing up while jealous veterans, now sitting in media chairs, couldn't resist throwing shade at Clark. Mitchell didn't need to tear anyone down. She just told the truth. She laid out a timeline. She kept the lights on, and Caitlin brought the electricity. Together, they're building something unstoppable. And that's exactly why this moment is so powerful. Sheryl Swoopes, for all her accomplishments, has made it her personal crusade to undermine Caitlin Clark's rise. She's questioned her stats, doubted her accolades, and even suggested her hype is manufactured. But Kelsey Mitchell's words cut through all of that. She didn't just defend her teammate, she defended the future of the WNBA itself. Mitchell reminded everyone that Clark isn't here to erase history. She's here to expand it.
And so hopefully the mental preparation that I've been through and the things I've been through can kind of help me get through these moments. And then just, loving basketball for what it is and just, loving the game.
The brilliance of Mitchell's comments lies in how they simultaneously uplift Caitlin while exposing the pettiness of Swoopes' criticism. Because if a player like Kelsey, who had every reason to feel overshadowed, isn't bitter, then why is Swoopes? Why does one of the game's legends spend more time tearing down Clark than celebrating the way she's growing the sport? That's the uncomfortable question Mitchell just forced onto the table. This wasn't just commentary, it was a mic drop. A seismic moment when one of Indiana's most loyal veterans drew a line in the sand and said, "Enough is enough." Kelsey Mitchell has lived through the grind, carried the weight, and now, alongside Caitlin Clark, she's ready to build something bigger. Because here's the truth. Leadership isn't about who yells the loudest. It's about who stands for something when it matters, and Mitchell stood tall, shining a spotlight on Clark's impact while exposing the jealousy festering on the sidelines. The Fever aren't just surviving anymore. they're thriving. And Sheryl Swoopes? She just got checked by someone who actually earned the right to speak.
Experience is a moment that I don't want to, take for granted. I want to cherish it as much as I possibly can. Like I said, I don't want to use this moment to as a moment to not grow.
Kelsey Mitchell's loyalty to Indiana has never been about the spotlight. For years, it was thankless, buried beneath the rubble of losing seasons and endless rebuilding promises. But in 2025, that loyalty is finally paying off, not just in box scores, but in something much bigger: legacy. Her recent comments didn't just acknowledge Caitlin Clark's impact, they elevated it, while simultaneously reaffirming her own. That's the genius of Mitchell's words. She didn't make it a contest between old and new, between veteran and newcomer. She reminded the world that leadership doesn't fear competition, it welcomes it, embraces it, and uses it as fuel. And that's why fans across the league are still dissecting what she said. Not because it was flashy or viral clickbait, not because it was a PR stunt, but because it was real. And that reality check landed like a thunderclap across a league too often mired in jealousy, bitterness, and cheap shots. For the past year, we've seen the narrative hijacked by players like A'ja Wilson, throwing side-eye, and Sheryl Swoopes, once a legend of the game, spending more time downplaying Caitlin Clark than celebrating the sport's growth. Mitchell just flipped that script.
To be a part of this experience, I want to tell you to give yourself some grace, kid. You've done a lot of things that are not.
But to really understand why Mitchell's words hit so hard, you have to rewind the tape. Go back to the years when Lexi Hull first joined the Fever, when Indiana was still a punchline, a league doormat. Wins were rare, losses were routine, and the franchise was buried in irrelevance. During those years, Mitchell was the one sitting at the post-game podium, smiling through the pain, spinning cliches about building blocks after yet another blowout loss. She wasn't just playing basketball, she was carrying a franchise on her shoulders, like a lone survivor dragging a broken body through the desert. Then came Aaliyah Boston, the first true ray of hope, a post anchor with superstar potential. Boston's arrival was like planting a flag in barren land. Finally, there was something to build on. And then came Caitlin Clark, a supernova who didn't just transform Indiana, she bent the entire sports media universe to her will. With her, the Fever became front-page news. Suddenly, a franchise no one wanted to watch was selling out arenas, dominating ratings, and forcing the entire sports world to pay attention. Through it all, Mitchell didn't pout. She didn't run. She didn't act threatened. She embraced the reinforcements. That's why her words about Clark carry more gravity than anyone else's, because she has lived both versions of the Fever, the irrelevance and the resurrection.
My finals, what does that feel like? And for people watching, like girls, boys, if they athletes, not athletes, what does it feel like?
And she knows exactly which version sells tickets and changes culture. But Mitchell's statement went deeper than basketball analysis. It wasn't just professional acknowledgement, it was personal. She didn't just call Clark a teammate, she called her a friend. Outsiders might shrug at that word, but in professional sports, where egos clash and locker rooms fracture, friend is not casual, it's rare. It's a signal that Clark hasn't just integrated into this team. She's healed it. According to Mitchell, Clark didn't arrive to hoard the spotlight. She came to create an orbit where everyone thrives. That distinction is massive. We've all seen super teams collapse in other leagues. Too many egos, not enough chemistry, and everything implodes under its own hype. But Clark has avoided that trap. She doesn't hog the ball or demand all the glory. She acts like the sun, radiating light so everyone around her shines brighter, and Mitchell's resurgence proves it. Since Clark's arrival, her profile has exploded. She's more efficient, scoring bigger in clutch moments, and finally getting the national recognition she always deserved but never received. Without Clark, Mitchell might have remained one of the league's best-kept secrets. With her, she's a household name.
Like we was talking, like we about to go get our rhythm on Indiana. You've been there, you stuck through, and to now being a sim.
Some cynics might laugh at the idea that friendship could be the foundation of a dynasty, but the results speak louder than cynicism. Mitchell believes in it, Clark fuels it. Boston anchors it, Hull embodies it. Together, they've taken a franchise once synonymous with futility and turned it into must-watch TV. The Fever don't just want respect anymore, they demand it. And they're earning it every single night. Mitchell's comments weren't just a pat on the back for Caitlin Clark, they were a manifesto. She essentially said, "Clark has changed everything and I'm here for it." There was no jealousy, no bitterness, no insecurity, just gratitude, motivation, and solidarity. That's rare in professional sports, and it's exactly why Indiana feels so different right now. And here's where Sheryl Swoopes comes in. While Mitchell builds bridges, Swoopes tears them down. She spends her interviews casting doubt on Clark's stardom, dismissing her impact as hype and fueling unnecessary division. But Mitchell's words exposed the hypocrisy. If a veteran like Kelsey, who had every reason to feel overshadowed, isn't bitter, why is Swoopes? Why is one of the game's legends so invested in diminishing Clark instead of celebrating what she's doing for the sport? That's the uncomfortable question Mitchell's statement just forced onto the table. The bottom line is this. Kelsey Mitchell didn't just defend Caitlin Clark, she aligned with her, embraced her, and validated her. And in doing so, she issued a challenge to the league's old guard. Either recognize what's happening in Indiana or get left behind. Because if Mitchell, Clark, Boston, and Hull remain united, the WNBA isn't just facing a contender, it's staring at a dynasty in the making. And Sheryl Swoopes, with all her bitterness, is already on the wrong side of history.
Changed the world in so many ways. If you've done it with so much grace, and I'm so happy to take the floor with you.
She even shared the perfect example, Caitlin's infamous fine tweet. Remember when Clark joked about a league fine on social media? The pundits pounced, twisting it into arrogance, immaturity, or entitlement. But inside the Fever locker room, it was comedy gold. Teammates laughed, loved it, and saw it as another glimpse of Clark's lightheartedness, the side the public rarely gets to see. Mitchell made it clear, outsiders can misinterpret all they want. But inside the team, that moment wasn't a controversy. It was chemistry. It was Clark being Clark. And that's the sign of a healthy culture. If there had been resentment toward her, that tweet would have sparked drama. Instead, it became proof that the Fever are united behind their star, and that unity has produced something terrifying for the rest of the WNBA. Indiana's Fab Four, Mitchell, Clark, Boston, and Hull. Together, they're not just a playoff team. They're a blueprint for a dynasty. Mitchell is all in. She even hinted she'd take less money to keep the core intact. In today's sports landscape, where chasing max contracts is the norm, that's a radical statement. It shows Mitchell understands the bigger picture. Indiana has something historic on its hands, and she's willing to sacrifice personally to preserve it. Why such loyalty? Because Mitchell sees what's happening. The Fever aren't the league's doormat anymore, they're the storm.